fade in. Mid-morning Tuesday, the very first warm and crisp and wispy dry tendril of the Chinook winds wandered from nowhere through crags and trees down one slope to another until it came to an unmarked border of Tempest. Miss Jones stood, somehow having her red dress and hair blown forward when there was no wind, staring in a space immediately before her where emptiness could be seen. The woman's mouth appeared as if she were speaking in slow motion. All at once the woman's hair and dress calmed, and she turned like she was watching someone or something go. Her shoulders shook for a moment in laughter before turning and giving you a mischievous grin, bursting out laughing while you follow the airborne tendril as it searches out a place it had been convinced would prove fun. Days of General Restlessness by Sheridan D. Lowe. Number 2. Dr. Steve Houdini entered the Tempest Medical Center and skating rink, typically using the long runway as his personal runway, albeit carpeted in shag. His modeling days were behind him, with a crest having been with the International Mail catalog. Steve always said to everyone, "Cats walk anywhere they want, and they're all still cats." Everyone thought he was on drugs. In front of the gift shop, Dr. Houdini whistled at his reflection in the sunglass mirrored lenses, and after pulling at his pants cuffs, which were clinging to the doctor's ankles from static, he checked the door he had just entered. Steve wondered about the warm breeze he suddenly felt. Shaking his head and smiling, the man strutted on until, turning a corner, where he slowly came to a stop next to a gurney with a covered body resting on top. The sides of the sheet had been moving, but quickly came to a rest. Around another corner came Nurse L'Oreal Wiggins, returning to the med cart. When Dr. Houdini asked about the body, she got excited and let the cart go when it ran into the wall. "It's that man they found. Oh, looking like Rip Van Winkle. But this old dude ain't waking up." Yes, said impatient Steam. "What is he doing here?" "Oh," L'Oreal said, when knocked out of her sales. "ME office hasn't come pick him up yet, doctor, but they only just brought him up from the vault, so he might be on the way." Looking down at this sheet, Dr. Houdini found himself curious. Pulling back the cover, L'Oreal gasped and then said, "Aw." Took over 10 seconds for the body's frazzled white hair to settle. Steve was confused right away. Touching the skin, he then pulled back an eyelid, watching it as the skin was released. Moving to the body's feet, Steve threw the sheet and back and felt the right foot and toes, pinching the large toe. Turning his head to L'Oreal, he ordered, "Nurse, give me the super stethoscope." "Oh my," L'Oreal said, surprised. Walking over to the med cart, she mumbled, "I knew something had drawn me to bring the wrong stethoscope today." Other than no doctors ever carrying their own, but we are all on the same team. She held out to the man a stethoscope whose pad was about a 12-inch wide disc. No, Houdini barked. "The big one." "Oh," L'Oreal responded, laughing. "You mean the super-duper stethoscope? I need to see if it's back from the mechanic." "There's no time," the doctor said. He snapped the super stethoscope away from his nurse. Wearing the instrument, Dr. Houdini pressed the disc to the right side of the man's chest. After a moment, he listened on the left. Ripping off the super stethoscope, he yelled, "Nurse, prep an OR, stat." "Whoa," countered L'Oreal, raising a palm to the man. "I am standing right here, so there is no need to yell. I mean, this old man has been dead all night, so let's take this down a notch." Frustrated beyond belief, Steam said as calmly as he could, "This man is in the final stage of a severe case of heart clench. If I don't operate now, there will be no more time." Narrowing her eyes, L'Oreal said, "Now, see, I want to believe you, being a doctor and all, but honestly, it sounds like, to get technical, bullshit." "Nurse, please," Dr. Houdini yelled. "All right, I'll play along. 1 OR coming up, but gotta warn you, they just shampooed the shag carpets." As the nurse rounded the corner, she added, "And you are allowed to use my name." "Stat, nurse!" Steam yelled. "ASAP-STAT." Dr. Houdini stepped up to the gurney and ripped the sheet completely away, cocking his head each way to crack his neck. Steam then cracked his knuckles before saying, "You are not going to stop you are not going to stop being alive on my watch." And then he raised his wrist and spoke into his watch. "Siri," his voice was determined, void of nonsense. "What's the top remedy for stage 8 heart clench?" "You might want to try," came a computer-generated woman's voice, "punching him in the nards." Nodding, Steam said, of course, the basics. Reaching out with his left hand, he jumped at the shock he got when his fingers touched the metal of the gurney. Grasping the metal bar anyway, his right elbow drew back. "I am man god," he whispered, and then threw a direct punch to the old man's genitals. A raspy wind was released from the body's mouth, and the man rose up, looked directly at Dr. Houdini, and winking first, his eyes rolled back, and the unknown's body fell back onto the gurney like he had been, except now he was breathing. "I am man god," Steam yelled as he punched the air. Moving to the foot of the gurney, he struggled, pushing the patient he was saving to the OR through the center's thick pile carpet. At the edge of town, opposite Crown Tower, was the True Love Complex. Unlike the Crown King, Grit Truelove had worked hard to make himself the wealthiest Native American. Beyond the business complex was a sprawling ranch-style house, which was probably as long as a football field. And beyond the house, a smallish man in a law enforcement uniform stood at the edge of the plateau, watching the sun as it lost the colors of its rise. It was an odd phenomenon brought long ago by the Chinook, which enabled the town to see both the sunrise and the sunset from this view. It was one of the true gifts received from the winds. "Morning, Sheriff," came a man's voice. Sheriff Fist Powers knew he was about to be reminded of one of the not-so-pleasant changes the Chinook had brought to town. Turning, he saw who he thought he had heard, Grit Truelove. Upon meeting him, most think the sheriff had been touched by the winds, but he just happened to be Benjamin buttoning through life. Looking barely old enough to drive, Fist was actually 50. What had happened to Grit was undeniably unnatural. The man now needed to have shoes specially made in the form of a wedge with a divot in the back because he now had high-heeled feet. Both men spoke to each other without losing eye contact. "Find anything yet?" Grit asked, taking a sip out of a steaming mug. Sheriff motioned for the landowner to join him, and Grit passed under the police tape. "It's the damnedest thing, I don't mind saying," Fist indicated a trail towards the plateau's edge. "At first glance, this appears to be someone dragging the body to the edge." Turning back towards the second wealthiest resident, he lowered to one knee and showed him the grass. "When you look at the grass, though, it's clear the body was dragged away from the edge." After a noisy sip, Grit offered, "Or dragged itself." "That's what I thought," the sheriff agreed. "Of course, that leaves a question of whether or not he fell or was helped over the edge. There was barely anything on his person, but I'm hoping something will bring a lead." Sipping again, Grit said, "I could have sworn I'd seen him before, but in his condition it was hard to remember where." "Really?" the sheriff asked with interest as he took a flask from his breast pocket and took a sip of buttermilk. "I got the same feeling myself. What time did you find the body?" Grit hesitated, then confessed, "Actually, I was told by my youngest, Granola. It was about 6:30. "I see," Fist said as he put the flask away, his wispy mustache in a white line across the edge. "Did he see anything else around the area?" Again, Grit sighed and said, "It wasn't actually Granola who found the body." Fist only raised his eyebrows. "It was Scabs," he told Granola. "Scabs?" asked the sheriff, confused. "Scabs is Granola's imaginary friend," Grit admitted. "It's too early to tell if it's just his age or if the winds did it." "Gotcha," Fist told Grit. "New deputy arrived yesterday. Gave him today to sort his shit, then tomorrow he'll come and give things a look over himself. Fresh eyes, you know. City cop. Hope he can adjust." Looking back out over the view, Fist took another swig of buttermilk and told Grit, "You got the best view here, Grit. I'll tell you that much for free. Don't think after that glass and metal monstrosity the town was thankful for what you built here. The kind of thankful that looks the other way in cases of incidents." Two voices interrupted at the same time. One came in the sheriff's radio, Indecipherable to anybody else, Fist pressed the button and acknowledged the call. Ooh. Grit turned to see his son, Granola, trotting through the grass toward them. There was a Star Wars in his hand. Grit supposed it was a person, not a ship. The boy was calling out to his father, looking dressed and ready for school. Ignoring the sheriff, Granola rocked back on his heels and then back on his toes, repeating as he spoke, "Dad, everybody's going to play at Broyan's tonight and sleep in their yard." He was really rocking now. "Please, can I go? I'll be the only one who doesn't if I don't." And I talked to Mom, and she said if it was okay with her, if it was okay with you. So is it okay with you? Not getting an instant response, he said again, "Please." Grit moaned because his wife had beat him to the "it's okay with me" game. "I guess if it's okay with your..." He was cut off by the gratitude his son showered upon him for a second before turning to go. "But you have to be back first thing in the morning. I know school's off, but get up like it isn't and come home." Grit's voice had increased gradually the further his son traveled. Turning, he found the sheriff replacing his radio on the wide leather belt, which was probably all of 22 inches around. "That was Mayor Good," Fist said. "Hopefully I can find a few answers before we meet up. I'll do a drive-by later and check on your boy and his friends. They won't even know." He was shaking Grit's hand now. "Thank you, Sheriff," Grit said. "I appreciate that." Ariana Grande was weaving left and right on the sidewalk before choosing to walk in nature. Spying a dragonfly ahead, she ran through the grass until slowing down when the creature had risen too high. Pressing her toe on, but not crushing a ladybug, Ariana Grande's attention was drawn to a door. Sauntering that direction, she sat and waited. If there was one thing Ariana Grande knew, it was if you sat by a door long enough, it would open. Ariana Grande did not come to the medical center too often, which was a shame because the string grass that grew inside was very pleasant. Walking in tandem with a man as he entered, the two passed the seated others unnoticed. And then they were going down a hallway. The man stopped around the corner, and Ariana Grande thought she would just see what they were up to. But then the nice woman, Laurel maybe, she arrived, and when the man started yelling, well, Ariana Grande walked in the other direction. Going down another hall, Ariana Grande was pleased when a door opened. Inside, it was bright, but for man-made lights. The metal was so shiny, Ariana Grande jumped up onto the table to see why. Her stomach began to lurch as she gagged a few times before vomiting out a hairball onto the metal surface of the table. Jumping down onto the floor, Ariana Grande thought of another good thing about this grass. You could use a bathroom anywhere indoors. And she did. "Ariana Grande," called a woman's voice. It was that same one who called herself Laurel or something. "How did you even get in here?" "Whoa, what did you do in here, young lady?" The woman scooped the cat up in her arms. "Let's get you out of here before anyone sees you. The last thing we need is evidence you're here, besides what you've already created." The helicopter approached the plateau supporting the town of Tempest. As he came closer to the edge of Grit Truelife's property, Bert Blades Pink saw Miss Jones walking along a wide ledge which extended outwards about 50 feet below the beginning of the plateau. Banking to the right above the convent, the pilot passed over Miller's Mechanics and car rental Tempest Souvenirs, and then banked slightly more to the right just before the Regal Beagle movie theater and petting zoo. Before him now lay Tempest's Mall of Knowledge. In the center was a square brick tower for administration and a hot topic. 3 separate buildings extended from the tower. Now, the smallest building left room for a playground and running track. This was the Shirley Hemphill Middle School. The next size up was for kindergarten through 6th grade, Tempest's Hawaiian Spears and Chinese Throwing Stars Primary School. The third building wasn't exactly a building per se. It was a studio where they filmed one of those Real High Schools of America reality TV franchises. There wasn't a typical high school. Instead, RHSOA:*T High School had built an entire high school in multiple sets. It was a flat surface on top of the tower, with markings for helicopters to land. As Blades took them lower, he saw that children had begun running in organized groups in random formations like flocks of birds. Each child was waving their hands in the air and screaming. A heavy sigh came from the pilot's one passenger before a tisk or two followed. Of course, it was school safety day, otherwise it would be strange. As soon as they touched down, Blaze was out and ready to help his passenger. Behind him, a door opened, and the tallest person Grant had ever met emerged, walking swiftly forward. Bending some over 7 feet in height and holding tight to a white scarf, the first lady-in-waiting ever to be put on the payroll of an American school reached Blaze. He told her good timing while opening the helicopter door. "What?" cried the woman over the blades of the motor. As his mouth moved, the woman raised her hand to cup her ear, releasing one end of the long scarf. The end floated directly towards and got caught up in the rotor of the blades. The eyes of the two barely caught each other before she was whisked away with a cracking and then a meaty thud on the other side of the killer vehicle. "Oh, that is unfortunate," came the voice of a British woman. Dame Maggie Smith was aided out of the copter by Blades before finishing. It will take them forever to replace her. Her dress was navy blue, silk brocade, and lacy sleeves with a beaded breast. The woman was so composed, even the feather in her hat was unmoved by the wind. It could be seen as a blessing in disguise. There was something insectile about her looming height that gave me such a case of the shivers. Dr. Houdini was with the old man in the OR as the 3 nurses scrubbed in. L'Oreal Wiggins snapped her gum rhythmically. Pushing against and approaching early retirement was Pansy Wiggins, with an H, who insisted on wearing her original starched white uniform, hat, and shoes, always. When she was done, she checked the lenses in her cat-eye glasses. Then there was Jolene, the most inexperienced, yet they kept giving her patients and duties that required more experience. She'd begun wondering if she was someone else. "Roxanne," asked L'Oreal. That was another thing. Jolene had long since given up trying to correct everyone on what her name is. "Have you seen Dr. Mancini? I think he's avoiding me because I've been trying to get my $75. Pansy looked at her coworker. "Why on earth does Dr. Mancini owe you $75? "For breaking my bed," L'Oreal answered and laughed, slapping her own hip. Stopping abruptly, she pointed to each of the other nurses and said, "For real, though, if you see him." Dr. Houdini cried out, and the 3 women went into the operating room, where Steam held onto the operating table with one hand as he held his leg up by the knee with the other. Seeing the 3 women, he cried out, "Don't just stand there, do something." The nurses exchanged confused glances before Pansy asked, "What happened?" "I'll tell you what happened," Steam said. "That damn Ariana Grande took a shit in the shag carpet again." How in the world did she get into the hospital? Pansy wondered. "What was she doing in here?" Jolene asked. L'Oreal stared at the doctor. "Why the hell are you barefoot?" Gaining frustration, Dr. Houdini said sarcastically, "During surgery, I like to braid the strands of carpet with my toes. Can we please take care of this?" Turning his foot revealed a substance squished between his toes. Pansy ran out and back with paper towels, gagging all the way. Steam looked at Nurse Wiggins and asked, "Want to wash my foot, L'Oreal?" Rolling her eyes, the nurse answered, "I've told you on no less than 4 occasions, L'Oreal, don't do feet. And speaking of feet, again, why are you barefoot?" Able to stand again, Cream began to move around the operating room by shuffling his bare feet in the carpet. An idea came to me, as they so often do, with no provocation. A surprise. Like a little gift the universe is giving me only at... The doctor was interrupted by L'Oreal. "Dr. Houdini," the nurse yelled. "Cream," she got more familiar, "if you can hear my voice, move towards the smell of cat poop." He glared at L'Oreal as she said, "Ain't nobody got time for one of your preambles. Idea, stat." Cream shuffled past L'Oreal and then around Pansy as he spoke. "I had to come up with a way of getting the heart to make the opposite of a clinch, whatever that would be. A spread? I don't know. We may never know." "Relax," offered Jolene. Dr. Houdini turned his head and shuffled her waist, stopping in front of Jolene, where he touched her nose with a spark of static that made her cry out as the doctor barked, "What the hell, Roxanne? I'm relaxed as shit." Turning back to his task, he grumbled, "Got to start my shuffle all over." Gaining back some composure, he went on, "I'm going to use electricity, nature's CPR." The nurses shook their heads. Pansy said, "That doesn't sound right." L'Oreal agreed. Nobody's calling it that, sweetie." Jolene decided not to speak. Pansy looked deep in thought. Then she asked aloud with disbelief, "Are you saying you plan to use static electricity to strengthen his heart?" Shuffling a little faster on the body on the table, he had inadvertently begun to prancercise. "Naturally, with our cells being static generators. No, declared L'Oreal. These aren't actual facts, Doctor, Pansy told Cream. Jolene asked, Where'd you go to school? Continuing his journey around the breathing dead body, his finger remained pointed at Jolene. Roxanne, if you open your mouth again today, I swear, I will hire a woman to jump out on you when you least suspect and punch you in the boob. Dr. Houdini, Pansy addressed the man. While your application is nothing less than tenacious, I must admit your theory is quite far-fetched. In other words, added L'Oreal, you are looking insane, baby. O ye, and ye of little faiths. Witness the man-god. Getting speedy, he was rubbing his palms together. Then he made a sudden stop beside the table. Out of each pant leg he pulled a sock, each one fairly crackling from static. The nurses seemed confused and curious. Placing a sock over each hand, he simultaneously grabbed the metal table and the old man's chest. There was a sound like a balloon popping. Dr. Houdini was set flying across the room. As they rushed to Cream's side, each nurse glanced curiously at the older man's body. The doctor groaned as the women sat Cream upright, shaking his head, which produced a small amount of smoke wafting from within his hair. Dr. Houdini opened his eyes and had the nurses aid him in standing. Instead of going up to the man on the table, Cream stopped short and extended an arm towards the body. In the other hand, he offered a regular stethoscope to the nurses. Pansy, professional to the core, straightened her hat and stepped forward. At the body, Pansy was quite a long time. She was basically on the same spot of the man's chest. She, initially placed the stethoscope. Finally standing, she returned to the others. I just wanted to make sure, but it worked. Man God, Dr. Houdini cried as he alternately punched the air with his fists, releasing more wispy smoke from his hair as, with a goofy grin, the doctor's head swung from side to side. Ariana Grande was passing one of the buildings which emitted horrible smells. In fact, the entire area of the circular city was a far cry from being refreshing to Ariana Grande. Choosing to suddenly sit in the road, the cat licked her right paw and rubbed her nose as she surveyed the area. Before they were even present, refreshingly wonderful smells caught Ariana Grande's attention, causing her to squint and raise her nose for more smells. When a slight warm, dry breeze passed, Ariana Grande felt the familiar winds penetrate her fur, skin, and pass out the other side. She had no idea why this happened. And then she did. Ariana Grande's perception, intelligence, and cognitive abilities had increased. Turning her head back and forth to view the city anew, Ariana Grande said, "So this is life," which would sound as if she were meowing. So many things she knew were changing before her mind's eye. A couple of blocks away, Sheriff Fist came out of Melts. "People have sheriffs," Ariana whispered. "And this is the sheriff of this town, Tempest." And then the cat hissed as a piece of clarity was forcing through memory she was trying to process. Murder! Ariana Grande watched Fist begin to walk away and then stopped to answer his radio. I thought that was a type of grooming device. Somehow Ariana needed to get the piece of evidence she had taken to that man. Wait, is he running towards me? Ariana Grande asked herself. Why is he waving his... Unfortunately, a Go Green initiative a few years back had given birth to almost silent electric city buses, and the cat was just the latest casualty. Fist stayed with the cat until his sister Slap came. She was head of the Tempest Animal Control. Leaving Slap to it, Fist began heading out of the city. The results had come back on the trace evidence and what had been in the empty vial found on the old man. Nothing yet on the DNA, but the lab had been able to tell Sheriff Powers what the credit card-sized card was and where it was used. A slight current of warm air brushed Fist's hand, causing him to pause and stare at it for a moment. Then, satisfied, he was back on track. Getting into a taxi, Fist drove to Crown Tower after he had dropped off a fare at the Temple Courthouse and Spencer Gifts. Parting before him, the sheriff walked through the doors to be immediately greeted by Chompy Mullins, who looked like she was attempting to beat the elephant for gestational length. Smiling, Chompy said, "Hello, Sheriff. How are you this beautiful day? Chompy was in charge of everything that had nothing to do with the running of the business. Thought I'd save you the time and meet you myself. Shouldn't have gone to the trouble, Fist told her. No need to stress you and the baby. When do you do? Chompy held out one of her hands got the card from the sheriff. When he gave it to her, she slid it into the end of a small black box. 8 days, she answered. I think the doctor calculated wrong. One side of the box lit up with a screen of information. Here we are. This card was issued under the category of delivery. Our Secretary Shanky issued it to Smoosh Weinstock. Does it say where he went? Fist asked. Swiping up, Chompy answered. He went right at the top. Oh, no, wait. One floor below. Woman's brow furrowed. Then he entered Mr. Crown's gym, and after that, nothing for a couple of hours, when the journey was reversed. Removing the card, Chompy handed it back to the sheriff. Is this about that body they found, she asked. Static and crackle came from the sheriff's radio. Lifting it, he asked, Come again? Screeching returned, and Fist was nodding his head. Right. I'll come there next. Okay. Another mystery? Chompy asked Fist. Actually, he responded, the same one. Chompy, this has just been downgraded to a case of attempted murder. Looking confused, the woman asked, Attempted? Yep. I'm on my way to the hospital now. They revived the old man, but he's in a coma. Fist shook Chompy's hand. My gratitude for your expediency. To be honest, Chompy Mullins confided, every opportunity I can take, I walk around. With her hand on her belly, she went on, This guy is starting to wear down my lower back. In Fist's experience, this was a sign of oncoming or present labor. This was Chompy's first baby, though, and he had no intention of worrying her. Hopefully she would make it past tomorrow. I'll be praying for you. Fist turned then and left. The room was cool and dry. Screens aligned the walls, but the floor was mostly taken up by a huge circular ring of a desk, packed with buttons and switches and levers and panels, even a small lab. Slap Powers entered the room carrying a domed container the height of a hydrant. Placing it gently on the floor, Slap went back under the desk into the center, sitting on the only chair. Watching the screens, it was like every animal in nature program you could think of. At the top of the dome, she had sat down, the head of Ariana Grande stuck out, beginning to blink her eyes. Before today, the cat knew she would probably have reacted by windmilling her legs and pushing from the inside until her head was in, not understanding she would still be trapped. Someone was here, though. If only she understood me, Ariana said in a meow form. Slap looked at the cat. I do understand you. Oh, Ariana said, surprised. Where am I? This is animal control, Slap told the cat as she moved a lever and one of the screens zoomed in on some squirrels in Memorial Park. Zooming in further, a rattlesnake was seen behind them, ready to strike. Why aren't you using your rattle, you clever snake? Not clever enough, I'm afraid. Typing on a keyboard, Slap looked up to see the snake disappear from the screen. Rotating around about 100 degrees, she watched on another screen, which showed a quiet wooded area, and the snake appeared on the ground there. What did you just do? Ariana asked. The human woman turned her attention back on the cat. I told you. This is animal control. The animals in Tempest are the same ones that have always been here. They need to be observed and watched for danger or injury. There are very few times when an animal wanders into Tempest and survives. But, I can't help them. Cat thought, which sounded like a purr. I'm going to live forever? Slap blinked a few times. I'm sorry, Ariana. You wandered in. If your mother was from Tempest, she left the border to give birth. Ariana Grande said, Okay, put a pin in that for now. What happened to me? I may not be able to keep you alive forever, Slap told the cat, but you're a cat, Ariana. By nature, you have 9 lives. Well, 8 now. Welcome back, Sabrina McMillan, news anchor, said from the news desk. Non-local woman employed by the Tempest Wine, Spirits, and Chinese Throwing Stars primary school was killed in a freak helicopter accident. Nothing is known about the woman. Co-anchor Bert Ruger said, Some interesting developments today in the case of the found body from yesterday. Winston Granville is at the Tempest General Medical Center with the latest. On the screen, Winston appeared, hair as white as Einstein, but sculpted like Elvis. This is Winston Granville saying that this story should have died yesterday. Pun in freaking intended. Here, let me sum it up in 5 seconds. Police find a body they think is dead. Doctor discovers man is alive. Man is in coma. Riveting. Winston dropped his mic and proceeded to light a cigar. Winston, Sabrina said, I don't think you should. Her voice faltered, then he glared into the camera and removed his earpiece, which is when the station logo appeared. Okay, Sabrina eventually said to Bert, who was laughing. Why don't we go right to TTV's weather hunk and my better half, Pierce McMillan? Caught unawares, Pierce had his hands down inside of his pants to pull down the legs of his ridden-up boxer briefs. As he received word on his earpiece, the weatherman froze. He shivered, actually, frightfully, and looked at the camera wide-eyed. It was almost as if they were going to burst, but then they shrunk back as vomit exploded from his mouth. Today's cast. Woman at the Border, Miss Jones. Dr. Kendall, Steam Houdini. Sassy Sexy Nurse, L'Oreal Wiggins. Body, Bennett Crown. Siri, Alexa. Sheriff, Fist Powers. Self-made man, Grit Truelove. Grit's youngest son, Granola Truelove. Garbled radio voice, Bobcat Goldthwait. Community stray cat, Ariana Grande. Helicopter pilot, Burt Blades Pink. Lady in waiting, Gwyneth Paltrow. Old nurse, Pansy Wiggins with an H. Nurse Roxanne, Nurse Jolene Putin. Animal control, Slap Powers. Pregnant liaison, Chompy Mullins. News anchor, Sabrina McMillan. Co-anchor, Burt Ruger. Reporter, Winston Granville. Weatherman, Pierce McMillan. With special guest, Dame Maggie Smith as Dowager Countess of Grantham as Dame Maggie Smith. Despite how late it was getting, despite how much they acted otherwise, the town of Tempest was on edge. People in Tempest had been trying for years to come up with something that would block the Chinook winds. There were bunkers and wraps and balloons, incantations being underwater, fasting, hairdryer brigades, all and so many more had been tried with only marginal and temporary success. Winston was right. If the Chinook wanted you, there was no way of stopping it. It was not unusual for the winds to arrive early, but this only irregularly happened. So in order to bolster the spirits of some of the students, there seemed nothing dangerous in allowing the children to camp outside. Nothing presented itself as dangerous at that particular time. Besides, everyone in Tempest were avid campers. Broyan Makepeace's backyard was enormous. His grandfather had lived next door, and when he went, Broyan's mother received ownership by default. The moon was high and bright. Only the light above the stove was on inside, which could be seen through the picture windows. 11 boys slid out of their sleeping bags, grabbed a backpack each, and marched directly up a trail beyond the grandfather's property that brought the boys to a steeper trail, which brought them eventually to a path. After about 2 hours in this direction, Broyan and his friends came to the ridge of hills marking the border on this side of town. And here is where there were caves that they weren't supposed to explore. As the boys entered the second cave they encountered, Miss Jones appeared just inside the first cave, barefoot and in red. Looking your way, she raised a finger to her lips and then